Welcome to this episode of Insights on Demand, a thought leadership series sponsored by InsideUp, where we talk to marketing leaders at top technology companies about what they're doing to drive growth in the current economic environment. Today, my guest is Rahul Ravulapati, who is the head of marketing operations for A10 Networks. How are you doing today, Rahul?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
Excellent. Can you tell our audience a little bit about you, your responsibilities at A10 Networks, and how you got to assume the position you're in now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm head of marketing operations at A10 Networks. And to really high level, to sum that up, is I own the marketing operations department and every responsibility that comes with it. And my journey to where I am now is paved by 20 years of hands on experience being in this field in various verticals, having tackled marketing operations functionality as well as marketing automation, go to market, as commonly known as demand gen, integrated marketing roles over the past 20 years, which all led me to where I am today at A10.
So you've been on the user side of marketing technologies, and what drove you to decide, I think I can make life better for the user community that I used to be a part of. Was that one of your decisions that got you into this full time?
Absolutely. So not to age myself. So if I go back in time, 20 years, and I was wearing multiple hats, like demand generation with go to market, marketer, and quickly found that there are processes and technologies that can certainly be improved. But back then, when I was working with my cross functional team members, things were just broken. It made it extremely
Hmm.
challenging being a practitioner of
Hmm.
pushing a product or service in a go to market initiatives, that I found myself having to take charge and say, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed. So fast forward to now, and I just kind of stumbled into more of the ops role, leader,
Hmm.
more specifically. So that's really the
So
path.
you raised their hand and they said, "Yes, we'll accept your volunteerism there."
They did. A lot of it, I had to roll up my sleeves and say, you know what, this isn't going to get fixed if I don't have a skin in the game. And I just started tweaking around with the technologies, and then discovered I have a knack for technology. And before you know it, I transitioned out of purely being like a field marketer, demand gen
Hmm.
marketer, to full-fledged marketing operations leader.
Excellent. So, give our audience a little bit of the flavor of the main brands that you rely on in your MarTech stack, and give us an idea of, is there a way that you're characterizing or categorizing those technologies into production level, emerging technologies, and maybe over the horizon sort of ideas that you're considering?
Yeah, absolutely. So, over my tenureship, I've came across a multitude, what I call a myriad of technologies I've leveraged. Most often, starting on a marketing automation side of the business. So I have a ton of experience with Marketo, as an
Hmm.
example, Eloqua, Perdot, HubSpot, just to name a few. Cream of the crop map solutions that to help me to automate and do
Hmm.
less of the manual work. So that is the marketing operations arm, particularly on automation. When it comes
Yeah.
to database management, CRM, Salesforce
Hmm.
is a big player in that space. So Salesforce is another big partner, that goes along with marketing automation tool like Marketo. And
Hmm.
that is really to serve as a repository of customer data, prospect data, to help with op creation, tracking bookings. Really wearing another hat, which I do, is RevOps, revenue operations. In order to do that, you need a tool like Salesforce, as an example, to help me achieve and give me the visibility that I need.
So let's talk about adoption for a second, because obviously when you were mentioning the user experience you're having, if you couldn't rely on the accuracy of the data, if you couldn't rely on the interfaces between the systems, then you would be frustrated and maybe have to go back to Excel spreadsheets or who knows what. So what do you do to create that trust between your organization and the marketing team so that they know that they're not going to run into glitches and that sort of thing?
It always comes down to fundamentally clean data. When you have good data hygiene, good data management practices in place, that
Hmm.
builds that trust with my stakeholders, with my cross functional teams that, hey, I can trust this report. I can trust what the data is showing me. And that's critical at the very foundational level is have a good, clean data that is reliable that you can derive insights from.
Now, does your company actually consider marketing to a target account list? I mean, have you done any work with account-based marketing
Yeah,
as part
ABM.
of, yeah, as part of your work?
Absolutely. And although ABM seems like a new kid on the block, but it's been around for years. So, A10 Networks and other companies I've even been at over the years all leveraged account-based marketing to do more targeted accounts based on intent signals, based on intent, propensity for product A versus product B, and we use all of those signals to go
Hmm.
after a highly curated set of targeted accounts because we know based on uh, first, second, third intent signals and data that there is a level of interest. So let's go after that low hanging fruit.
Great. So, what other challenges have you faced, and what strategies have you been able to employ in this era of limits? I mean, sometimes you see your total amount of monthly subscription value, and maybe someone is boxing that for you and saying, "Well, you can swap, products in and out, but it can't go over a certain level." So, what sort of strategies have you been able to employ to keep everything running smoothly here?
It always comes down to establishing processes, standard practices, always around uh, data management. An example I can think of is inflow of data or point of entry. If we don't have robust methodology in place to say how we accept the data
Hmm.
and in what form, everything else will just fall apart. So what I've instituted over the years, even at A10 and in previous organizations I've been with, is adhering to a set of standards that we don't deviate from, and what is
Hmm.
considered acceptable and what's not acceptable. The challenging part there is once again it comes from ingestion of data. Since
Hmm.
there are many outlets of data inflowing, although I put a lot of mechanisms in place, right? Technology can only take so far. There's also people behavior, which is the more challenging part. People need to be trained and retrained and educated over and over to follow best practices, industry best practices, and saying, this is the way I will accept data. Oftentimes, we find ourselves running million miles per second, so we
Hmm.
tend to compromise or just circumvent established processes. And that's when you circumvent those established processes, things tend to fall apart.
Final question for you, Rule. I couldn't leave this interview without talking about AI a little bit. And you mentioned wash, rinse, repeat. It seems like there's a possibility for generative AI capabilities to do some of that wash, rinse, repeat as long as they understand your rules and the way you go about things. So, what have you dabbled your foot in terms of the AI side?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now, Chat GPT-4 and regenerative AI is a big talk of the town. And the way I see generative AI really being a very useful technology is content syndication. I mean, is through content creation, content
Hmm.
curation. Um, an example would be currently have a content team that is curating the content, creating the content, but it does take time. It does take cycles. But where generative AI comes in is cuts down on that cycle, being able to, through algorithmically, right, based on millions of data points that it analyzes through custom algorithms, being able to create based on tone the type of content that we have from existing content, and enhance our, for example, blogs, enhance our landing pages, even enhance white papers and collateral of certain pieces. And that's how generative AI really comes into play, at least in my world, is content
Mhm.
creation.
Do your counterparts actually look to you and the marketing operations team to help them learn about those technologies and go through some training,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
modalities, if you will?
Yeah, the modalities from my colleagues, yeah, they certainly look to me, in marketing operations for innovations and new technology pieces, and I partner up with the web team to dive deeper into, can we leverage chat gtp, can we leverage generative ai to optimize our workflows, to enhance how we create content. Traditionally, right, it's a content writer who puts it all together, working with the product marketing manager, and they dabble over that for the next few days or a few weeks.
Hmm.
Whereas generative AI comes in and says, I'm going to cut that in half or even less time and give you the kind of content you want without adding an additional headcount.
Yeah, I've heard that the right kind of prompts can turn writers into editors, which we know is going to be a fast way of working. So, well, this is awesome. Any final thoughts you want to leave for our audience today from the marketing ops team? Obviously, you want to make sure they know that data is accurate and the processes and interfaces are in place. But anything else you want to share with us today?
My parting words would be, as head of marketing operations, that it always comes down to people, process, and technology. If you're able to address those three pillars and have a constant eye on them, you can certainly position MOPS as a center of excellence, because that's my North Star always, is to position it as a revenue engine within the larger
Hmm.
organization to ultimately propel the organization forward to new heights.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate those perspectives that you've shared with us today, and good luck for the rest of the year on the marketing ops side. So enjoyed it.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Grant.
All right. See you soon.
Supercharge your sales pipeline with InsideUp. With our in-capture platform driven by predictive AI and our expert team, we deliver pipeline to spend ratios exceeding 7x. Let us be your partner in achieving rapid pipeline growth. Visit www.insideup.com. Let us meet to schedule a meeting.